The message came through on a quiet Tuesday morning, though nobody at Earth's United Defense Command expected it to be quiet for long. Commander Rebecca Stone was halfway through her third cup of coffee when the alert flashed across every screen in the operations center. "Ma'am, you need to see this," Lieutenant James Parker called out from his station, his voice carrying that particular tension that meant something big was happening. Rebecca set down her mug and walked over, her boots echoing on the metal floor. The holographic display showed a message translated into dozens of Earth languages, all saying the same thing. An invitation. No more than that. A summons. The Galactic Council wanted to meet humanity. "Well," Rebecca said slowly, reading through the flowery diplomatic language. "I suppose we knew this was coming eventually. It had been 18 months since humanity achieved faster-than-light travel. 18 months since the breakthrough that changed everything. The scientists had called it the Morrison Drive, named after the physicist who cracked the mathematics. Rebecca just called it humanity's ticket to the stars. But the galaxy, it turned out, had been watching. And they had opinions. They want us to send a shuttle to some place called Kepler's Crossing," James said, zooming in on the relevant section. "Says it's a neutral station. Says we should send something appropriate for a species of our technological level." Rebecca's eyes narrowed. She'd been in the military long enough to read between the lines. Appropriate for our level. In other words, send something small. Send something that doesn't look threatening. "That's how I read it too," Captain Michael Torres said, joining them at the display. Michael ran the intelligence division, and if anyone could sniff out hidden meanings, it was him. "I've been going through our intercepts from the outer systems. The chatter we've been picking up from alien transmissions. These council species, they're not exactly rolling out the welcome mat." Rebecca gestured for him to continue. Michael pulled up another display, this one showing fragments of decoded alien communications. "The Vrwaks, the Shultari, and the Gorvaks. Those are the big three in the council. From what we can tell, they're not thrilled about us joining the neighborhood. There's talk about putting us in our place, making sure we understand the pecking order. Some of the language is pretty dismissive. They keep calling us primitives, newcomers, upstarts." "Upstarts," Rebecca repeated, a slight smile playing at her lips. "I haven't heard that word since my grandmother used it." "There's more," Michael said, his expression darkening. "We've intercepted some coded transmissions that suggest this might not be just a diplomatic meeting. There's a pattern here that worries me. The Council has done this before with other new species. They invite them to a neutral location, make a big show of welcoming them, and then something happens. Pirates attack, or there's a misunderstanding, or the new species accidentally violates some obscure protocol." James leaned back in his chair. "You think this is a setup?" "I think we should be very careful," Michael replied. "The galaxy runs on power dynamics same as anywhere else. We're the new kids and new kids get tested. The question is whether we show up looking like easy targets or whether we make a statement." Rebecca was quiet for a long moment, staring at the invitation. 400 years of human history played through her mind. The colony wars, the Mars rebellion, the AI crisis, the asteroid mining conflicts. Humanity had barely made it through its own solar system without destroying itself half a dozen times. They'd learned hard lessons about survival, about not showing weakness, about the cost of being unprepared. "Get me a secure line to Admiral Thomas Rivera," she said finally, "and start pulling together a briefing package for the Joint Chiefs. If we're going to meet the galaxy, we need to decide how we want to introduce ourselves." The next 72 hours were a whirlwind of meetings, debates, and strategic planning. In conference rooms from Washington to Beijing to New Delhi, Earth's leadership wrestled with a fundamental question. What kind of first impression should humanity make? Some argued for caution. Send the shuttle they asked for, play the part of the humble newcomers, learn what they could about galactic politics before making any waves. Others argued the opposite, that showing weakness now would define Earth's position in the galaxy for generations to come. Admiral Thomas Rivera sat in one of those meetings, listening to politicians and generals argue back and forth. He was 53 years old, a veteran of the Belt Wars and the Luna campaign. He'd commanded ships in combat, lost friends in the black, and learned that in the void of space, perception often mattered as much as reality. "They expect a shuttle," said one of the diplomatic advisors, a nervous man named Peterson who kept adjusting his glasses. "If we send anything else, it could be seen as aggressive. We don't want to start off on the wrong foot." "With respect," Thomas said, his voice calm but firm, "we're already on the wrong foot. You heard the intelligence briefings. These species look down on us. They think we're primitives who got lucky with FTL. If we show up in a shuttle, we confirm everything they already believe. So what do you suggest? The Secretary of Defense asked. Thomas stood and walked to the window overlooking the sprawl of the military complex. Outside, he could see the launch towers, the massive infrastructure that humanity had built to reach the stars. It had taken blood, sweat, and tears to get this far. He'd be damned if they were going to apologize for it now. We send the Indomitable, he said. The room erupted. The Indomitable was humanity's most advanced warship, a vessel so classified that most people in that very room didn't know its full capabilities. It was the product of decades of research, billions in funding, and the best engineering minds humanity had to offer. That's insane, Peterson sputtered. That's practically declaring war. No, Thomas said, turning back to face the room. That's declaring who we are. The galaxy wants to meet humanity? Fine. But they meet us on our terms, not theirs. They want to see what we're capable of? We show them. Because I guarantee you this diplomatic meeting is going to be a test. And I'd rather pass that test than fail it. The debate raged on, but Thomas could see minds changing. In the end, the decision went all the way to the top, to the offices where humanity's future was decided by people who would never see the stars themselves. The answer came back within 24 hours. Approved. Thomas received his orders at dawn. He stood on the bridge of the Indomitable for the first time as its commander, looking out at the vessel that represented humanity's best and brightest work. 4 kilometers of advanced engineering, weapons that pushed the boundaries of physics, and a crew of 8,000 who trained their entire careers for missions just like this. All stations reporting ready, Admiral, Commander Lisa Grant said. She was his executive officer, a sharp tactical mind who'd earned her position through merit, not politics. Then let's make history, Thomas said. Athena, prepare for FTL jump. The ship's artificial intelligence responded immediately. Jump calculations complete, Admiral. Course set for Kepler's crossing. Estimated travel time, 47 hours at standard cruise. As the Indomitable's massive engines powered up, Thomas felt the familiar vibration through the deck plates. The ship was more than metal and circuits. It was a statement. It was humanity saying we survived, we thrived, and we're not going to bow and scrape for anyone. All crew, this is the Admiral, he said over the ship-wide comm. In 2 days we're going to meet the galaxy. They've invited us to introduce ourselves, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Stay sharp, stay ready, and remember what we're representing. This isn't just a ship. This is humanity's answer to 4 centuries of struggle. Make it count. The Indomitable jumped to FTL, leaving Earth behind and heading toward a meeting that would change everything. The galaxy expected a shuttle. They were going to get something very different. The Indomitable dropped out of faster-than-light travel at exactly 0800-hour ship time, and the moment it did, every sensor in the Kepler's crossing system lit up like a Christmas tree. Sir, we're being painted by multiple scanning arrays, Lieutenant Daniel Brooks reported from the tactical station, his fingers dancing across the controls. I'm counting 63 distinct sources. They're running everything from basic radar to quantum resonance scans. They really want to know what we're made of. Admiral Thomas Rivera settled into his command chair, his eyes fixed on the main view screen. Let them look. Athena, passive sensors only. I want to know what we're dealing with before we make any moves. The view on the screen was breathtaking. Kepler's crossing sat at the center of a binary star system, a massive station that looked like someone had taken a dozen different architectural styles and somehow made them work together. It was beautiful in an alien way, all sweeping curves and geometric precision. But what really caught Thomas's attention were the ships. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. All gathered around the station like moths around a flame. Those are the council vessels, Commander Lisa Grant said, pulling up identification markers on a secondary display. The insect-looking ones are VRYX. See how they move in perfect formation. That's their thing. They're a hive mind species. Every ship thinks as one. Thomas studied the VRYX cruisers. They did look like insects, all sharp angles and segmented hulls, moving in patterns that seemed choreographed. There had to be 30 of them, and they moved with an eerie synchronization that made his skin crawl. The crystal ships are Shultari, Lisa continued. Don't let the pretty looks fool you. Intelligence says they're cold as ice, literally and figuratively. Their species evolved on a frozen world. They think in terms of pure logic, no emotion. They consider us hot-blooded primitives. The Shultari vessels were something else entirely. They looked grown rather than built, all facets and angles that caught the light of the binary stars and threw it back in rainbow patterns. Beautiful, sure, but Thomas had been in enough fights to know that pretty didn't mean harmless. And those big boys? He asked, pointing at the largest ships in the formation. Gorvax, Lisa said, and there was a note of respect in her voice. They're warriors. Their whole culture revolves around combat, honor, that kind of thing. Those dreadnoughts pack serious firepower. Each one could probably take out a small moon if they wanted to. The Gorvax ships were exactly what Thomas expected from a warrior race. Big, brutal, and covered in what looked like weapon emplacements. They reminded him of old Earth battleships, all function over form. Sir, we're being hailed, Communications Officer Amanda Hayes announced. It's coming from the VRYX flagship. They're requesting we acknowledge and state our intentions. Put them through, Thomas said. All frequencies. Let everyone hear this. The view screen shifted, and Thomas got his first look at a member of the Galactic Council. The VRYX commander looked exactly like the nightmares his daughter used to have. Mandibles clicking, multiple eyes that seemed to look in every direction at once, and an chitinous body that gleamed under the ship's interior lighting. Human vessel, the alien's voice came through the translator, sounding like someone running nails across a chalkboard. You were instructed to send a diplomatic shuttle. This is not a shuttle. This is a warship. Explain yourself immediately. Thomas took his time responding. He'd learned long ago that rushing to answer questions just made you look weak. He stood slowly, straightened his uniform, and looked directly into the camera pickup. This is Admiral Thomas Rivera of the United Defense Ship Indomitable. We received your invitation to introduce ourselves to the galactic community. This is our diplomatic vessel. The silence that followed was absolute. Thomas could almost hear the gears turning in alien minds across the system. That is unacceptable. The VRYX commander's voice rose several octaves. The protocols clearly state that new species are to arrive in vessels appropriate to their technological development. You mocked the council with this display. Before Thomas could respond, another voice cut in. This one was different, crystalline, cold, each word precisely enunciated. The humans demonstrate their barbaric nature, the Shultari ambassador said. They flaunt their weapons like primates beating their chests. Perhaps they are not ready for civilized discourse. Now a third voice joined the chorus, this one deep and rumbling like an avalanche. Withdraw your warship, humans, the Gorvax general demanded. You violate the protocols of neutral space. Leave now, or we will consider this an act of aggression. Thomas looked around his bridge. His crew sat at their stations watching him, waiting for his response. These were good people. The best humanity had to offer. They'd trained for years, given up normal lives, all to be here on the edge of the unknown. And now the galaxy was telling them they weren't good enough, weren't civilized enough, weren't worthy of a seat at the table. Not on his watch. Athena, he said quietly. Open a channel. All frequencies, maximum broadcast power. I want every ship in this system to hear what I'm about to say. Channel open, Admiral, the AI confirmed. Thomas stepped forward, his posture relaxed but his eyes hard as steel. This is Admiral Rivera to all Council vessels. Let me be very clear about something. The Indomitable is humanity's diplomatic vessel. This is not a warship pretending to be a shuttle. This is who we are. This is what we built. This is what 400 years of fighting to survive looks like. He paused, letting that sink in. You invited us here to introduce ourselves to the galaxy. Well, here we are. If you don't like what you see, that's your problem, not ours. We're not going to apologize for being prepared. We're not going to make ourselves small just to make you comfortable. Humanity is here and we're here to stay. The bridge was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Amanda Hayes was staring at him with wide eyes. Daniel Brooks had a slight smile playing at his lips. Even Lisa Grant, who'd seen him in tough situations before, looked impressed. The response from the council was immediate and loud. All three species started talking at once, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of outrage and indignation. The VRYX were chittering so fast the translator was having trouble keeping up. The Shultari were using words that probably didn't have polite translations. And the Gorvax were making threats that were very creative in their specificity. Sir, they're demanding we leave immediately, Amanda reported. They're saying we've violated about a dozen different protocols. They're threatening sanctions, quarantine, possible military action. Note their objections in the log, Thomas said calmly. But we're not going anywhere. We were invited and we accepted. If they want to forcibly remove us, they're welcome to try. Captain Michael Torres appeared on the bridge, coming up from the intelligence section with a tablet in hand. Admiral, you need to see this. We've been monitoring their encrypted channels. The chatter between the council ships, it's interesting. Thomas took the tablet and scanned the decoded messages. His eyebrows rose. They're scared, Michael said quietly so only Thomas could hear. Look at the power readings they're getting from our reactors. Look at the weapons signatures. They can't figure out half of what we've got. The Gorvax military analysts are going crazy trying to classify our systems. The Shultari scientists are arguing about whether our shield technology is even theoretically possible. Thomas handed back the tablet, a slight smile crossing his face. So all that bluster and outrage, it's covering fear. Classic intimidation tactic, Michael confirmed. Make a lot of noise, hope the other guy backs down. But underneath? They're rattled. We're not what they expected. Good, Thomas said. He raised his voice so the whole bridge could hear. All stations maintain defensive posture. Weapons stay cold, shields stay up. We're here for diplomacy, but we're not idiots. Athena, run continuous tactical analysis on all nearby vessels. I want to know their capabilities, their weak points, everything. Analysis running, Admiral, Athena responded. Initial assessment suggests Council vessels are technologically inferior in most categories. Their power generation is approximately 40% less efficient. Their weapon systems appear optimized for long-range bombardment rather than close engagement. Their shield technology relies on static frequencies that would be vulnerable to modulation attacks. Keep that information to yourself for now, Thomas said. No need to show all our cards yet. The diplomatic channel crackled to life again. This time it was a new voice, calmer than the others. It carried the weight of authority. Human vessel indomitable, this is Council Mediator Vrentok. Perhaps we can move past this unfortunate beginning. The Council requests that Admiral Rivera transport to the station for formal introductions. We assure you, our protocols for diplomatic meetings are quite civilized. Thomas exchanged glances with Lisa. They'd expected this. Tell them I'll be happy to meet with them, Thomas said. In 2 hours. That gives them time to calm down and gives us time to set up proper security. And Lisa? Sir? Make sure the Marines we send with me understand something. We're going there for diplomacy, but if things go sideways, I want an exit plan. A fast one. Understood, Admiral. As the crew prepared for the diplomatic meeting, Thomas stood at the forward viewport, looking out at the alien armada surrounding them. They'd expected a shuttle full of scared primitives, eager to please and desperate to fit in. Instead, they got the indomitable. They got humanity's answer to 4 centuries of survival against impossible odds. And judging by the frantic communications still flying between Council ships, they had no idea what to do about it. The galaxy wanted to meet humanity. Well, here they were. No apologies, no excuses, no backing down. Let the Council chew on that for a while. Retried. The diplomatic meeting had been going for exactly 3 hours and 14 minutes when everything went straight to hell. Admiral Thomas Rivera sat in the Council chamber, a massive room built to accommodate dozens of different species. The ceiling arched high above, covered in what looked like living constellations. The walls shifted colors based on the emotional state of the speakers, or so they claimed. Right now, those walls were showing a lot of orange and red, which Thomas had learned meant tension and distrust. The meeting itself had been exactly what he'd expected. A lot of posturing, veiled insults disguised as diplomatic courtesy, and subtle attempts to put humanity in its place. The VRYX kept referring to Earth as a developing world. The Shultari spoke about humanity's potential while making it clear they thought that potential was centuries away from being realized. The Gorvax just glared at him with what he assumed was their version of contempt. Thomas had dealt with worse. He'd sat through budget meetings with politicians who thought a warship was a waste of money right up until they needed one. Compared to that, alien condescension was almost refreshing in its honesty. Then Lieutenant Daniel Brooks's voice cut through his earpiece, urgent and clipped. Admiral, we have a situation. Multiple FTL signatures detected on the edge of the system. Big ones. Lots of them. Thomas didn't move, didn't change his expression. Years of command had taught him how to keep his face neutral even when his gut was screaming danger. How many is lots? 43 contacts, sir. They're dropping out of FTL now. Designations are coming through as Krathal Dominion. Admiral, the Krathal are bad news. They're on the Council's banned list for war crimes and genocide. Thomas felt ice water run through his veins. The Krathal. He'd read the intelligence briefings on them. Ruthless, expansionist, and with a reputation for taking no prisoners. Literally. They didn't believe in surrender, theirs or anyone else's. All Council vessels are breaking orbit, Daniel continued, his voice tight. They're running. All of them. Sir, we're picking up their communications. They're already writing reports about a tragic accident. They're abandoning us. And there it was. The setup that Captain Michael Torres had warned them about. The Council hadn't invited humanity here for diplomacy. They'd invited them here to die. Thomas stood abruptly, cutting off some long-winded speech the VRYX ambassador was making about protocols. We're done here. The chamber went silent. The Sholtari mediator's crystalline form seemed to dim. Admiral Rivera, we have not concluded. Yes, we have, Thomas said coldly. He looked directly at the three council leaders present. You set us up. The Krathel don't just happen to show up at a neutral station. You invited them. You arranged this. The VRYX commander's mandibles clicked nervously. We have no idea what you're. Save it, Thomas cut him off. My intelligence officer is very good at his job. We've been monitoring your encrypted channels since we arrived. We know about the deal. The Krathel get to destroy our ship and claim salvage rights. You get to eliminate a potential rival and maintain plausible deniability. Everyone wins. Except us. The room erupted in protests and denials, but Thomas was already moving. His two Marine escorts, Sergeant Jake Peterson and Corporal Rachel Foster, fell in beside him. They'd been standing so still for the past 3 hours they might as well have been statues, but now they were all business, hands near their weapons, eyes scanning for threats. Admiral, you cannot just leave, the Gorvax general rumbled, rising to his full height. He was massive, easily 8 feet tall, built like a tank. We have not dismissed you. Thomas stopped and turned back. General, in about 15 minutes, 43 Krathel warships are going to start shooting at my vessel. I need to be there. And you need to be running, which I notice your fleet is already doing. So unless you want to stay here and fight beside us, I suggest you get out of my way. He didn't wait for a response. The three of them strode out of the chamber, moving fast but not running. Running would show panic, and Thomas wasn't about to give the council the satisfaction. Transport room, this is Rivera, he said into his comm, beam us back now. The familiar tingle of the transporter took him, and 3 seconds later he materialized on the Indomitable's bridge. The scene that greeted him was controlled chaos. Every station active, every screen showing tactical data, the crew moving with the kind of precision that only came from endless drills. Situation report, Thomas snapped, sliding into his command chair. Commander Lisa Grant was already at her station, her fingers flying over the controls. Krathel fleet is in system and closing fast. 43 warships confirmed, ranging from cruiser to battleship class. They're in attack formation, spreading out to surround us. All council vessels have jumped to FTL. We're alone. Time until they're in weapons range? 8 minutes at their current speed. Admiral, they're broadcasting on all frequencies. They're claiming salvage rights to our ship. They're saying the council gave them permission. Thomas felt a cold fury settle over him. He'd been in combat before, had faced death more times than he cared to count, but this was different. This wasn't a fair fight or even an honest ambush. This was betrayal wrapped in diplomatic courtesy. All hands, this is the Admiral, he said over the ship-wide comm, his voice calm and steady. Battle stations. This is not a drill. We have 43 hostile vessels inbound. The Krathel Dominion has been given permission by the Galactic Council to destroy us. They think we're easy prey because we're new. They think we'll panic and surrender. They're wrong. He paused, looking around at his crew. These were his people. They'd trained together, bled together in simulations, prepared for this exact moment. Not the details, maybe, but the reality, humanity standing alone against overwhelming odds. The Council expects us to die here today, Thomas continued. They expect us to be a footnote in their history, a cautionary tale about primitives who didn't know their place. But here's what they don't understand about humanity. We've been the underdog before. We've faced impossible odds before. And we're still here. We're still fighting. We're still standing. His voice hardened. So let's show them what humanity is made of. Let's show them what 400 years of warfare and survival have taught us. Let's show them why you don't pick a fight with someone who's spent their entire history learning how to win. All stations, sound off. Weapons systems hot and ready, Daniel Brooks reported, his voice steady despite the youth in his face. All batteries loaded, targeting systems online. Engineering reporting full power, came the voice of Chief Robert Miller from deep in the ship's heart. Reactors at 100%, all redundancies active. We can give you everything she's got, Admiral. Medical bay ready, Dr. Jennifer Walsh added. We've got trauma teams standing by. Fighter wings armed and ready to launch, Commander Kevin Scott called from the flight deck. Give the word and we'll show these bastards what human pilots can do. Shields at maximum, Lisa reported. All defensive systems active. Athena is running combat protocols. The AI's calm voice filled the bridge. Admiral, analysis of Krathel fleet composition complete. They are using standard pack tactics: surround, overwhelm, destroy. Their shields are powerful but slow to recharge. Their weapons favor plasma-based systems with a recharge cycle of approximately 12 seconds. Recommended strategy: rapid, concentrated fire to overwhelm individual shields before they can recover. Noted, Thomas said. He opened a channel to the Krathel fleet. Krathel vessels, this is Admiral Thomas Rivera of the United Defense Ship Indomitable. You are making a mistake. Stand down and withdraw and we'll forget this happened. The response came quickly, translated into harsh, guttural English. Humans, your ship is forfeit. The Council has granted us salvage rights. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Resist and we will take our time. You have 1 minute to comply. Thomas looked at the tactical display. 43 ships versus 1. By any reasonable calculation they were dead. The Krathel had fought and won hundreds of battles. They were experienced, ruthless, and they had overwhelming numbers. But the Krathel had never fought humans before. Daniel, target their flagship, Thomas ordered. I want every weapon system we have locked on Warlord Thaxiel's ship. When they open fire, I want our response to be immediate and devastating. Aye, sir. Targeting lock achieved. All weapons ready. Athena, remove all safety limiters. Full combat authorization. I want maximum firepower. Acknowledged, Admiral. All safety protocols suspended. Weapon systems operating at full capacity. Warning, sustained fire at this level may cause system damage. We'll worry about repairs later, Thomas said. Lisa, prepare to deploy hunter-killers the moment we engage. I want those drones in the fight from the start. Hunter-killer swarms armed and ready, sir. The Krathel fleet was close now, close enough that Thomas could see individual ships on the view screen. They were ugly things, all sharp angles and aggressive design, built for one purpose: destruction. They moved with confidence, with the certainty of predators who'd never met anything that could fight back effectively. They were about to learn something new. Incoming fire. Daniel shouted. Multiple launches from all vessels. Plasma torpedoes, kinetic missiles, particle beams. Sir, this is everything they've got. Thomas gripped the arms of his command chair. All hands brace for impact. The first wave hit like the fist of an angry god, and the Indomitable showed the galaxy what human engineering could do. Retried. The Krathel Alpha strike lit up space like someone had ignited a small sun. 43 warships unleashed everything they had in perfect synchronization. Plasma torpedoes that burned hot enough to melt mountains, particle beams that could slice through asteroids, and kinetic missiles moving at a fraction of light speed. It was the kind of firepower that entire planets had surrendered to rather than face. The bridge of the Indomitable shook violently. Lights flickered. Somewhere deep in the ship, alarms were screaming. Admiral Thomas Rivera felt his teeth rattle in his skull as the impact threw him against his restraints. Then just as suddenly it stopped. Damage report. Commander Lisa Grant shouted over the chaos. Lieutenant Daniel Brooks's hands flew across his console, eyes wide as he read the numbers. Sir, shields are holding at 87%. The adaptive matrix is redistributing the impact energy across the entire grid. Hull integrity is 100%. We took everything they threw at us and we're still here. Thomas allowed himself a small smile. Then I suppose it's our turn. All weapons, fire at will. What happened next would be talked about in military academies across the galaxy for the next 1,000 years. The Indomitable's railguns spoke first. Unlike the flashy energy weapons the Krathel loved, human railguns were simple in concept. Use massive electromagnetic fields to accelerate a chunk of metal to ridiculous speeds. But simple didn't mean weak. The tungsten carbide slugs that left the Indomitable's forward batteries were traveling at 5% of light speed. At that velocity, even a small projectile carried the kinetic energy of a tactical nuclear weapon. The first slug hit a Krathel cruiser dead center. The alien ship's shields flared bright blue, held for exactly half a second, then collapsed like wet paper. The projectile punched through the hull, through the crew compartments, through the engineering section and out the other side. For a brief moment you could see straight through the ship. Then it exploded, the reactor breach taking 2 nearby vessels with it in a ball of superheated plasma. 3 down, Daniel reported, his voice carrying a note of satisfaction. Adjusting targeting solutions. The second railgun volley caught the Krathel by surprise. They were still trying to process how easily their shields had failed when 4 more ships went dark, hold through like someone had taken a can opener to them. "Sir, the Krathel are breaking formation," Tactical Officer Lieutenant Karen Foster called out. "They're trying to scatter." "Don't let them breathe," Thomas ordered. Daniel switched to plasma lance batteries. "Give them something to remember us by." The plasma lances were humanity's answer to directed energy weapons. While the Krathel used plasma torpedoes, slow-moving balls of superheated gas, humans had figured out how to create focused beams of matter heated to temperatures found only in the cores of stars. The beams crossed the distance between ships in microseconds, and where they touched, Krathel armor didn't just melt. It vaporized. 2 more enemy ships went silent, their hulls sliced open like a surgeon's scalpel through flesh. Atmosphere and bodies spilled into space, freezing instantly in the void. "They're trying to regroup," Lisa said, watching the tactical display. "Their commander is pulling them back into a defensive formation." "Athena, deploy hunter-killers," Thomas ordered. "Let's see how they handle our drones." From concealed bays along the Indomitable's flanks, hundreds of small craft burst forth. Each hunter-killer drone was about the size of a fighter, but there were no pilots inside. Instead, they were controlled by sophisticated AI subroutines, each one capable of independent thought and tactical decision-making. They moved in perfect coordination, like a school of mechanical piranhas, seeking targets with ruthless efficiency. The Krathel point defense systems opened up, filling space with a web of defensive fire. Some drones were destroyed, bright flashes marking their deaths. But for every one that fell, 3 more slipped through. And once they reached their targets, they showed no mercy. The drones didn't just attack. They learned. They analyzed Krathel defensive patterns in real time, shared that information across the entire swarm, and adapted their approach vectors on the fly. If a Krathel ship's point defense favored its port side, the drones came from starboard. If a ship's shields were stronger forward, they struck from above and below. It was like fighting an enemy that got smarter with every passing second. "Admiral, the Krathel flagship is attempting to retreat," Daniel reported. "Warlord Thaxiul is running." Thomas felt a cold anger settle in his chest. This Krathel warlord had come here expecting easy prey, expecting to slaughter humans and take their technology as trophies. Now he was running, leaving his own ships to die while he fled to safety. Not acceptable. "Target that flagship," Thomas said quietly. "I want the Mac ready to fire." The magnetic accelerator cannon was the Indomitable's heaviest weapon, a monster that ran the entire length of the ship's central spine. It was designed for one purpose: to crack open capital ships and space stations. The projectiles it fired were the size of small cars and carried enough kinetic energy to flatten a city. "Mac charging," Daniel reported. "Targeting lock acquired on the flagship." "We've got him, sir." "Fire." The entire ship shuddered as the Mac discharged. The projectile was visible even to the naked eye, a streak of metal moving so fast it seemed to bend space around it. The Krathel flagship's rear shields flared desperately, trying to stop the inevitable. The first Mac round shattered those shields like glass. The second hit 3 seconds later, punching through the hull and into the ship's command section. The third followed right behind it, and when it detonated inside the flagship, the results were catastrophic. Warlord Thaxiul's ship broke in half, spilling debris and bodies into the void. Secondary explosions rippled along its length as systems failed and reactors went critical. Within seconds, the pride of the Krathel Dominion was nothing more than expanding wreckage. "Sir, the remaining Krathel vessels are broadcasting surrender," Communications Officer Amanda Hayes said, her voice shaking slightly. "They're asking for terms." Thomas looked at the tactical display. Of the original 43 ships, 31 were destroyed or crippled beyond repair. The survivors were scattered, their formations broken, their confidence shattered. The engagement had lasted 23 minutes from first shot to surrender. 23 minutes to rewrite the galaxy's understanding of human military capability. "Cease fire," Thomas ordered. "All weapons hold." "Athena, recall the hunter-killers." "Recalling drones," the AI confirmed. "All surviving units returning to base." "Admiral, total ammunition expenditure is within acceptable parameters. We could engage a force of similar size with current reserves." Lisa looked at him in surprise. "Sir, we're accepting their surrender?" "We're not monsters, Commander," Thomas said. He opened a channel to the surviving Krathel ships. "Krathel vessels, this is Admiral Rivera. Power down your weapons and prepare to receive rescue teams. We'll recover your survivors and provide medical assistance." There was a long pause before the response came, the translator struggling with what sounded like disbelief in the alien voice. You You would help us? After we attacked you? You attacked us because you were told we were weak, Thomas replied. You were lied to. But we're not going to murder people who've surrendered. That's not who we are. Now power down your weapons before I change my mind. He cut the channel and turned to his crew. Ryan, take a team in the rescue shuttles. Anyone who can be saved, human or alien, bring them back. Daniel, I want a security detail on every shuttle. If this is a trick, I want our people protected. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Cooper nodded sharply. Understood, sir. We'll be careful. As the rescue operations began, Thomas sat back in his command chair and looked at the debris field that had once been a Krathel fleet. Around the system, he knew, every sensor was focused on them. Every council ship that had fled was watching from a safe distance, recording everything. Good. Let them watch. Let them see what happens when you underestimate humanity. Sir, we're receiving a transmission, Amanda said. It's from the council. All 3 primary species. They're requesting immediate communication. Thomas almost laughed. Now they wanted to talk. After they'd run away. After they'd left humanity to die. Now, seeing what the Indomitable could do, suddenly diplomacy was back on the table. Tell them we'll talk when we're done recovering survivors, Thomas said. Human and Krathel both. When everyone who can be saved has been saved, then we'll discuss their betrayal. Make sure they understand, we're putting that word in the message. Betrayal. Lisa was watching him with something like awe. Sir, do you realize what we just did? We took on 43 warships and won. The Krathel have been terrorizing the galaxy for centuries. They've destroyed entire civilizations. And we just beat them in under half an hour. We did what we had to do, Thomas replied. What humanity has always done. We survived. And we made sure anyone watching understood that we're not going to be pushed around. Captain Michael Torres appeared on the bridge, a tablet in his hands and a wide grin on his face. Admiral, you need to see the chatter we're intercepting from Council vessels. They're losing their minds. The Gorvax military command is demanding to know how we generated that much firepower from a single ship. The Sholtari scientists are arguing about whether our weapon systems violate known physics. And the VRYX are having what I can only describe as a collective panic attack. Thomas took the tablet and scanned through the decoded messages. Ship after ship, species after species, all saying variations of the same thing. The humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to be primitives. They were supposed to die. Instead, humanity had shown the galaxy something it hadn't seen in a very long time. A species that could fight back, adapt, and win against overwhelming odds. Sir, rescue operations are underway, Ryan reported over the comm. We're picking up Krathel survivors now. Most of them are in shock. I don't think they can believe we're actually helping them. Keep me updated, Thomas said. He looked out at the stars, at the debris, at the council ships hiding in the distance. The galaxy had tried to kill humanity today. Instead, they'd learned a valuable lesson. You don't ambush survivors. You don't underestimate warriors. And you definitely don't mess with a species that's been fighting for 400 years straight. Humanity had given the galaxy its answer. And that answer was written in the wreckage of 43 warships. The rescue operations took 6 hours. 6 hours of shuttles moving back and forth between the Indomitable and the wreckage of the Krathel fleet, pulling survivors from the twisted metal and bringing them aboard. 6 hours of doctors and medics working side by side, treating burns and injuries without caring whether the patient had 2 arms or 4, human blood or something else entirely. Admiral Thomas Rivera watched it all from the bridge, a cup of coffee growing cold in his hands. He hadn't slept since the battle ended, and he probably wouldn't for a while yet. There was too much to do, too much at stake. Final count is in, sir, Lieutenant Commander Ryan Cooper reported, his uniform stained with what Thomas hoped was hydraulic fluid and not blood. We recovered 347 Krathel survivors. Most of them are in stable condition. Dr. Walsh says a few are critical, but she thinks they'll make it. Thomas nodded slowly. 347 lives saved. Against over 4,000 dead in the destroyed ships. War was never clean, never simple. But at least they tried to do the right thing after the fighting stopped. How are the survivors reacting? Thomas asked. Ryan's expression was complicated, somewhere between amused and troubled. Sir, they're confused. One of them, a junior officer, kept asking why we weren't executing prisoners. Apparently that's standard practice in the Krathel military. They don't understand the concept of mercy after combat. Then maybe they'll learn something today, Thomas said quietly. Anything else I need to know? The senior Krathel survivor, a commander named Vekaruel, has requested to speak with you. He says it's important. Thomas considered that for a moment. Put him in conference room 3. Give him water, medical attention if he needs it, but keep security close. I'll meet with him in 20 minutes. As Ryan left to make the arrangements, Commander Lisa Grant approached with a tablet full of reports. Admiral, the Council is getting impatient. They've sent 14 requests for communication in the last hour alone. Each one more insistent than the last. Let them wait, Thomas said. They were perfectly happy to watch us die. They can wait a little longer while we clean up the mess they created. Lisa smiled slightly. Copy that, sir. Also, Athena has finished analyzing the battle data. She wants you to know that we used approximately 40% of our ammunition reserves. The ship took minor damage to 3 outer hull sections and 1 shield emitter, all easily reparable. No casualties among our crew. No casualties, Thomas repeated, letting that sink in. They'd faced down 43 warships and hadn't lost a single person. That was either incredible luck or incredible engineering. Probably both. 20 minutes later, Thomas sat across a table from Commander Vekaruel. The Krathel officer was larger than Thomas expected, easily 7 feet tall with 4 arms and skin that looked like it was made of overlapping plates of dark metal. One of his arms was in a sling, and there were visible burns across his torso, but his eyes were clear and focused. You fight well, human, Vekaruel said, his translated voice rough but respectful. Better than any species I have faced. The Krathel Dominion has conquered 17 civilizations. None fought as you did. I take no pleasure in what happened today, Thomas replied. Your people came here to kill us because someone told you we were easy prey. You were used. Vekaruel's head tilted, a gesture that might have been agreement. Yes. The Council promised us your ship. They said humans were weak, that your technology was inferior. They lied. They did, Thomas confirmed. Just like they lied to us. They invited us here for diplomacy, then arranged for you to ambush us. They wanted us both dead or weakened. That's how they maintain power, by making sure no one else gets strong enough to challenge them. The Krathel commander was quiet for a long moment. You could have killed all of us. After we surrendered, you could have destroyed our ships and left us to die in space. Why did you not? Thomas leaned forward. Because that's not who we are. Humans have fought a lot of wars, Commander. We've made a lot of mistakes. But we've learned that there's a difference between fighting to win and fighting to exterminate. You surrendered. The fight was over. What kind of people would we be if we killed you after that? Most species in the galaxy would have, Vekaruel said softly. The Council species certainly would have. Then most species in the galaxy are doing it wrong, Thomas replied. Commander, I'm going to release you and your people. We'll repair one of your ships enough to get you home. In return, I want you to take a message back to the Krathel Dominion. Vekaruel straightened, surprised. You would trust me to carry a message? I'm trusting you to tell the truth about what happened here. Tell your leaders that humanity doesn't want war with the Krathel. But tell them we won't back down if attacked. Tell them we showed mercy today, but mercy has limits. And tell them that maybe, someday if your people get tired of being used by the Council, we might be willing to talk. The Krathel commander studied Thomas for a long moment, then slowly raised his uninjured hand in what might have been a salute. I will deliver your message, Admiral Rivera. And I will tell them something else, that I have seen the future of this galaxy, and it does not belong to the Council anymore. After Vekaruel left, Thomas finally agreed to speak with the Council. The holographic display showed all 3 leaders, Hive Commander Zeldar of the VRX, Ambassador Krelven of the Shultari, and General Vokhtar of the Gorvax. All 3 looked significantly less confident than they had at the start of this whole mess. Admiral Rivera, Zeldar began, his mandibles clicking nervously. We must discuss the unfortunate incident. Stop, Thomas cut him off. Let's be very clear about something. There was no incident. There was a calculated betrayal. You invited us here, knowing the Krathel would attack. You fled and left us to die. You were already writing reports calling it an accident before the first shot was fired. We know all of this because we intercepted your communications. The 3 council leaders exchanged uncomfortable glances. Ambassador Krelven spoke next, her crystalline voice lacking its earlier condescension. Admiral, we may have underestimated your capabilities. You underestimated our capabilities, Thomas agreed. You underestimated our intelligence gathering. And most importantly, you underestimated what humanity is willing to do when our survival is at stake. That was a mistake. A bad one. General Vokhtar, the Gorvax warrior, looked almost impressed despite himself. Your ship's performance was extraordinary. Your tactics were unlike anything we have seen. The Krathel have destroyed civilizations, yet you defeated them with minimal damage. How is this possible? Thomas smiled coldly. It's possible because humanity has been fighting for 400 years straight. Not occasional wars or border skirmishes. Constant conflict. Fighting for resources in our own solar system. Fighting off pirates and raiders. Fighting rogue AI that tried to exterminate us. Fighting each other when we ran out of external enemies. Every battle taught us something. Every loss made us better. Every victory was paid for in blood and hard lessons. He stood up, his voice hard. The Indomitable isn't special because of some miracle technology. It's special because every system on that ship exists because we needed it to survive. We don't build exploration vessels and warships separately because for us, there's no difference. When you explore, you need to be ready to fight. When you fight, you need to be ready to adapt. That's what 4 centuries of survival looks like. Commander Lisa Grant stepped forward, a tablet in her hand. We've analyzed your fleet compositions, your weapon systems, your shield technology. Do you want to know what we found? You've been at peace for so long that you've forgotten how to really fight. Your tactics are predictable. Your weapons are optimized for intimidation rather than effectiveness. Your shields use static frequencies that any competent engineer could exploit. You've grown comfortable, Captain Michael Torres added. You've used your technological advantage to bully newer species into submission. But you haven't faced a real threat in centuries. You've forgotten that technology alone doesn't win wars. Adaptability does. Creativity does. The willingness to do whatever it takes to survive, that's what wins wars. The council leaders were silent. Thomas could see them processing this, understanding for the first time that the balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted. Admiral Rivera, Zeldar said finally, his voice lacking all its earlier arrogance. What does humanity want? Full council membership, Thomas replied immediately. Not provisional status, not observer status. Full voting rights, full access to council resources, and full respect. You treat us as equals or you treat us as enemies. Your choice. That is unprecedented, Ambassador Krelden said. New species typically serve a probationary period of. We just destroyed a Krathel fleet that had been terrorizing the galaxy for centuries, Lisa interrupted. We did it in 23 minutes with one ship. I think we've earned the right to skip the probationary period. General Vokhtar actually laughed, a deep rumbling sound. She is not wrong. The Gorvaks have fought the Krathel for generations. Many of our warriors have died trying to stop them. If humanity can do in minutes what we could not do in years, perhaps they have earned their place. The 3 council leaders conferred quietly for a moment. Then Zeldar looked back at Thomas. The council will convene an emergency session. We will vote on humanity's full membership within the hour. Given recent events, I suspect the vote will be favorable. I suspect it will be unanimous, Thomas said. Because you all just realized something important. You can either have humanity as an ally and partner, or you can have us as an independent power that you can't control. And given what you've seen today, I think you'd prefer the first option. The transmission ended. The bridge crew erupted in cheers and congratulations. They'd done it. Against impossible odds, facing betrayal and ambush, humanity had not just survived but thrived. Thomas walked to the forward viewport looking out at the stars. Behind him, his crew celebrated. Around them, the galaxy was reassessing everything it thought it knew about the new species from Earth. Sir, Lisa said, coming to stand beside him. We changed everything today. The galaxy is never going to be the same. No, it's not, Thomas agreed. They expected a shuttle full of scared primitives. They got a battleship full of survivors. They expected us to know our place. We showed them we make our own place. They expected weakness. We showed them 400 years of strength. An hour later, the formal message arrived. The Galactic Council, in an emergency session, had voted unanimously to grant humanity full membership status with all rights and privileges. The vote wasn't motivated by respect or friendship. It was motivated by the cold calculation that having humanity inside the Council was safer than having them outside it. As the Indomitable prepared for the journey home, Thomas sat in his ready room and wrote his report. He chose his words carefully, knowing that this document would be studied for generations. We came to the galaxy as newcomers, he wrote. We were tested, betrayed, and attacked. But we survived as humanity always has. We showed them our strength not to conquer, but to ensure we would never be conquered. We showed them mercy not because we're weak, but because we're strong enough to choose peace over revenge. The galaxy wanted to see what humanity is made of. Now they know. And they will never underestimate us again. He finished the report and looked out at the stars, at the infinite possibilities that awaited humanity among them. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was here to stay.